Right, Jamie. So this final part, we're going to talk about you because we never met before. But obviously, I was doing my research. You kind enough to send me your CV. It's quite impressive. You've been through you've had quite a up and down sort of career.
Been all over the place.
In the so you moved to Darwin,
Yeah.
Australia, in 1996 to work for a bookie. And you were sort of involved in computers and setting up websites. I mean, did you learn those extra skills, or did you already possess them?
Well, it was 1996, so I was 26, and in those days we had a computer in the corner, and whoever's under 30 was expected to be able to use, and you're not scared because you've grown up with your ZX Spectrum and stuff. But it was pretty much falling into it. We had a system that we all used, and we built an internet system on top of an internet-based system on top of that telephone betting system. I didn't do the building, so a couple of other guys did that. I was much more on the content side of things and the bookmaking side of things. So I'd be working with them, and then you just pick it up along the way. And then that business, there was Mark Reed I was with, and then there were two businesses there. There's Darwin All Sports that turned into an International All Sports, and Sportsbet next door that was run by Brian Clark. And those two businesses were the ones that got bought by Paddy Power when they set up. Now is Sportsbet that's kind of dominating Australian betting over there. So we're there in the very early days there. But it used to just be much more like CFAX in 96. We didn't take an interactive bet until about 98.
Okay, now I've jumped the gun a bit because you've already mentioned to us that you were brought up in Newmarket, but you're not from a racing family.
No.
You actually worked on your 18th birthday in a betting shop.
Yeah.
So I always quite keen.
Yeah, I was good at maths and stuff, and I just loved betting. I think it's just I love puzzles and excitement and betting and so on. So it's a natural thing. I love the atmosphere of a betting shop, and just the people you see in there. That especially a flat roof betting shop next to a flat roof pub. It's on an estate. You learn so much in there. I just loved it.
But you were studying at one of the highest educational centres in the world at Cambridge.
Yeah.
Doing mathematics, law. Sorry.
Yeah, I did law. Yeah. Because I thought I was good at maths, but I thought I wanted to do law because I thought I watched LA Law and they looked really trendy in there. I thought that'd be a good thing to do. I do, it's probably the worst thing to do because it doesn't really suit my brain at all. Or, towing the line and being regulated has never been my strong point. But I got my degree and everything. But I worked in betting shops all the way through as well. In my summer holidays and stuff, and then came out. I got a proper job in the for strategy consulting for KPMG after that in the city. But I was in a sausage factory.
I was going to say, tell us about your epiphany moment.
We were sitting there giving this consultation, or giving this presentation to the boardroom of a sausage factory in Colville, and at that time, as a junior kind of consultant, you had to make sure everything was spelt right, and in those days it was an acetate, on an overhead projector, so you mustn't have a shaky hand. That was all you really had to do, and it was 3:30 on a first Thursday in May. I'm sitting there about to talk about sausages, and they're going down to the start for the 1,000 guineas, and I am sitting in a sausage factory boardroom in Colville, and I thought, this is not how I wanted my life to go. So I left that and went straight back to betting and betting shops, and thought, well, I'll do all right. If I'm doing something I love, I'll do all right if I throw myself into that.
Right, so you've gone to Australia, you've stayed there for a couple of years, and you've come back, moved to Leeds to work with William Hill, and set up their internet business. So you're right at the beginning of all that online betting.
Yeah.
I mean, were you surprised how soon online betting people didn't trust the internet, did they?
No, it's quite funny. But there weren't any rules then, so it was brilliant. We had a brilliant laugh. There were four of us sitting in a room with no windows. Ralf was our boss. He'd been given the internet to do just in case it took off, and he employed me. I was in Australia when he got in touch. He employed a guy from South Africa, and we had a couple of tech guys. We were building it out on the top of this telephone betting system called SB Client that we used to use. But every bet in those days used to print out. So on the telephone betting was massive there. You used to have big call centres and stuff, and all the bets used to spit out on a dot matrix printer. So for the internet, we didn't take many. Well, we hadn't taken a bet, so we just had a printer, just printed out what. I can remember the first bet we took was on a piece of A4 paper. Come out as £5 at 8 to 11 on Man United. And I thought in the end, when it was taking off and taking off, and we were doing more money in paper than we were on anything else. So we thought we should turn the printer off now, and it just kind of went skyrocketed after that.
And you mentioned you were working with Ralf Topping.
Yeah, it was
So
good.
how was he?
He was a great boss, especially if you're in the betting industry. And the great thing about Ralf is he'd done every job, because he had worked in the shops, he had worked, in marketing, he'd had worked in HR, he'd worked all the way through that business, and he cared so much about that business and the customers and everybody that worked in that business. And so you knew that if you had any kind of opinion, but it's always came from the right place, so it's about making stuff better for customers, making stuff better for colleagues or whatever, he absolutely listened to you. He'd always give you the time of day, and he'd support you. So it's the it was the best of everything. So that was really the kind of catalyst behind all the big growth at Hills. Was he gave us our freedom to build great stuff and backed us. Obviously we'd have to hit the numbers and everything, but it was a time when we could hit numbers. But yeah, about the trustworthiness though, it was quite funny. There weren't any kind of rules on the internet then, but we used to take about 25% of the money from China, 25% from America, 25% the rest of the world, and 25% from the UK, because there weren't any rules then. And the adverts were kind of, even for the American market, we had kind of pictures of the William Hill shaking hands with the Queen, and that was our, don't bet with the Caribbean pirates. We've got some. We even had, one of them that went, because the only thing that really the internet was used for early was betting and porn. So we had to get laid for a £5, because we used to have to get 50 quid minimum deposit everywhere else. That was one of our best working banners out in the American market, and needless to say, that wouldn't be allowed these days.
Well, then you went to work with the opposition under Wilf Walsh at Corals.
Yeah, I'd been in the internet, and then I wanted to go back into trading a bit, because I thought trading was one of the areas that was holding us back on the internet. It's less. It was good working for Wilf. He's another very clever guy, and we tried to take the opinion out of trading. It was just when in-play trading was getting much more automated, so we started to put a lot more automation in there, got the SSPTs in and stuff, but really wanted to make traders responsible and saying why. If don't just say no to a customer, tell him why you're not laying his bet, and always change your price. If it's very rude to refuse somebody a bet.
It was less common in those days, wasn't it, to refuse people's bets?
Exactly.
You wouldn't have said on the phone, no, you've got £1.50, would you?
No, exactly. And I think that's one of the downsides of the internet, is that there is a bit of hiding behind there, and in that sense, almost too much automation, because you know that there's not really human there when you're getting £1.50.
And then you went back to Gibraltar, and you went back with William Hill.
Yeah, and then
we went to Gibraltar, not back there. And you went with William Hill.
Yeah, and then we took a group of people out there we set up in Gibraltar. The best thing about that was we had 120 people that went out there with their families and stuff, right off the bat, and got great growth then. It's not to do with, I still don't think it's to do with anything to do with the product so much, or no single thing. The biggest thing was having 120 people that were so committed that they would lift up their entire lives and go out to Gibraltar, complete a new country, and then you knew that everybody there was as committed as you were, and everybody helped each other out. And so I think that's another thing about any kind of startup. It's that camaraderie that really drives it, and it means you're all talking. And so that was the most fun. Yeah.
Right, and you mentioned the startup, Sunbets.
Yes.
You were part of that.
Yeah, and then I got to Sunbets. It was a deal between Tabcorp and News Corporation and some bingo and things like that done very well. We'd looked at other businesses had looked at a tie up with News. By the time I got there, they'd already done the deal, and they'd released, because I had a big gardening leave period, so I couldn't. But I think the premise that had gone wrong really, because it was being built for it was the UK market. Again, it was a bit of kind of entitlement or arrogance from the Australian side a little bit, because they were building a betting product for the UK audience based on the Australian platform. But the Australian in Britain, half of the business you took was on casino, half of the rest was sportsbook. Of the sportsbook, half of it was in play, and so you've got a quarter left of pre-match betting. Of the pre-match betting, racing would be 30% of that. Whereas in Australia, you're not allowed to do casino, so they didn't have that. You're not allowed to do in play, so you didn't have that. So you're now down to a platform that's built for 70% horse racing business, and obviously isn't as flexible as all of the bookmakers over here. And then if you go and just shouting, there are certain things that people will shift their money for. Gaming is kind of, I always say gaming is like the peanuts at a party. You don't go to the party for the peanuts, but you stand next to a bowl and you finish them. It's not, but you don't. So, but that's not why you went. So gaming is very easy to sell if you've got lots of traffic and stuff like that. So PokerStars Casino will be fantastic and stuff like that. But for sport, people tend to stick with their bookmaker of choice a little bit, where your balance is, and get used to how to use it. It's very hard to shift a habit. And so and the way that the deal was structured, they had to hit the ground running with a massive minimum revenue requirement for news, which they could never hit. So of course everybody's going to be under pressure from day one, and once people are under pressure and not hitting targets, it's not great for a business.
Right. Okay. So now we're up to date. We're back to the tote.
Yeah.
You're in the tote. This is you now. You told me that being a bookmaker was easy in comparison.
Yeah, it's just really developing stuff is the biggest thing. So if we could come up with an idea as a bookie, and we might price something out. We could have it out tomorrow. We could have it out that night if you're pricing something out. Whereas with the tote, because you've got all the totes are talking to each other, they're all connected with ITSP. And to give you an idea of how old that is, the T stands for telephone. So it's 80s tech mostly. I know they've built on it, but it's very rigid because you can't change too much because they've got so many connections to everything. Give you an example. So the PlaySpot. So we've done a PlaySpot 7 to mirror the ITV PlaySpot. So the ITV 7 place. So a PlaySpot for ITV 7. But that's taken kind of 5 months to add one leg to the PlaySpot and have it across different. It's just, whereas if you're a bookie, you create that in 2 hours. It's a lot. The moving parts are much slower. So a lot of the stuff that we want to do, like free format multiples, because now we've got the SP guarantee. You'd want to be able to. People want to do doubles and trebles and stuff like that. But again, there's a whole big change the way the entire tote works for that to kick in. I think we can do it, but it take a lot longer than it would do for a bookie. So it's much more about the delivery of new product.
Okay. So, now you said that early on you saw that some bets was doomed.
Yeah.
You got it when you could, but you're a lot more optimistic for the tote.
Definitely. We're starting to see a real kind of turnaround now. Particularly, the online business was going up. Then we had a lot of kind of the Gambling Commission changed their attitude to protections and stuff, and so people don't like being asked to send in a wage slip to have a tenner on the horse. And every bookmaker in this country has suffered from that, but it's started to come back now. We've got the SP guarantee that's really now we've got it on the racecourse as well as online. People used to get confused because we'd be telling them online that we've got it, but then you turn up at the racecourse and you haven't got it, and it didn't really make sense, especially when we don't have the kind of marketing budget that a Bet365 or a Hills or an Entain would have. So it's very hard to get that message out, but now we've got it on course, it's starting to really pick up. So we've got, I think Aintree was 40% up on the last time it was opened to the public. So it is starting to come through. Okay,
right. Finally, you said that some bet was doomed.
Yeah.
If you have your way with the tote, are all bookmakers doomed? Are you looking for a tote monopoly?
No, I think every jurisdiction for betting should have the three kind of tenets of betting, or the three pillars of betting. So you should have a really good exchange model, you should have a really good tote, and you should have really good fixed odds bookmakers, and they all can generate money for each other, because most of the turnover on, if you got rid of the exchange, you'd lose a lot of the turnover in fixed odds. If you got rid of the tote in other countries, then it would affect fixed odds, because there's so much money that's moving around between the three. The other thing though, but where a tote monopoly has helped, is normally to do with the media rights, because normally they own the media rights. But then, which is something that I don't understand why we haven't done in this country. Whereas, so we have two sets of media right holders: Racing UK, RMG, ATR, Sky Sports Racing. Now, we've changed. All the bookmakers have changed their deals with the streaming providers. We used to pay 10p, 20p, whatever depending how big you were per stream, and now we pay a percentage of our turnover. Now, when you go to Australia, take Monopoly, go to France, take Monopoly, they get racing TV in every bar for free. Have it at home. I can watch it for free at home all the time, all day if I want to. Yet we put that behind a paywall for people at home, and we charge pubs to show it. If your whole model runs around a percentage of how much people bet on racing, why would you charge anybody anything to watch racing? You'd make it free to air, and you'd stick it in every pub for free. You'd stick it in every front room for free. At least make it accessible for free. How much are you making off the 5,000 people that are paying subscription purely for racing TV? Not as much as you're going to make if it's the one pub, or it's the one sport that every pub can have on. You know, not just as a pack of 30 grand a year package. So for me, I think that it's much more that tote monopolies are only good because they own the media, and they understand if you've got the media, stick it in front of as many people as you can, and you make more money.
Brilliant. On that note, Jamie Hart, thank you very much.
Cheers.